the recording started. All right, awesome. So we have a fairly manageable group right now, so maybe we can start with some quick introductions. If people could just say their name, where they're calling from, and how they found out about the webinar. So I'll just go down the list I have, starting with Manuel.
So, hey everyone that could hear me. My name is Manuel Caballero. I'm calling from Orlando, Florida. I'm actually originally from New York, so that's why I know RevFit. Like I worked out there back at Harlem, then I moved down here. So now I'm just trying to do other certification and work with the community down here.
Awesome, good to have you. All right, going down the list, we got Sylvia.
Hi, Sylvia from the Bronx. How did I learn about Rev Fitness? I actually went to a poetry thing next door, and you guys were doing a plant-based workshop, so that's how I found you guys.
Nice, awesome. And I love how she's just like, the Bronx. She didn't say New York City, nothing. She's like, the Bronx.
The Bronx. The Bronx.
You better know where that's at. All right, we'll go down the list. We got Ernie.
Hey everybody, I'm Ernie. Currently from St. Paul, Minnesota. Much like Matt, I believe I also used to live in New York. That's how I met Sean and got involved in RevFit. At the time right now, Sean and I are working on a revised RevFit kettlebell certification, which I'm really excited about. And I'm happy to have this nice little chat this evening with everyone.
Awesome. Ernie's one of our master trainers. He is the one leading the development of the curriculum for our kettlebell certification. For those who are going to be going through our kettlebell certification, that will be the person leading those certifications. So you get a face to a name. All right, so we'll keep going down. We have Diana, or global to local. I'm sorry. I think you're still muted. Let me unmute. I unmuted you. You're good.
There. Okay, awesome. I couldn't do it. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Diana Melgoza. I work with Global to Local here in Seattle, Washington. And I heard about you guys by Henry. He gave me a call and told me about the webinar, so I just wanted to join in and see what it's about.
Nice.
Thank you.
Awesome. Good to have you on board. All right, so keep going. We have someone calling in from 505. 505, number 1, 2. I think you're muted. 505.
Hello?
Just unmuted you. Yep. Is that Henry?
What's up, everyone? My name's Henry. This is Henry from Tacoma. And yeah, hi, everybody. Excited to be part of the webinar. And I heard of this through Sean and RevFit and the podcast. And yeah, excited to kind of go through this.
Awesome, Henry. Thanks for getting on board. All right, cool. So we'll keep going. We got someone calling in from 626.
Hey, it's Nate from LA.
Nate, what's up, bro?
What's up?
Good, man. How's the weather in LA?
It's actually really nice right now. It rained yesterday, which is interesting for LA. But yeah, I'm excited to get things going for RevFit out in LA.
Awesome, Nate. Thanks for calling in. All right, cool. And we have Natalia. I'll go ahead and unmute you. You're good to go,
Hello,
Natalia.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm good to go? Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm driving right now. Pretty sure I'm breaking the law. But I am calling in from Portland, Oregon. I learned about RevFit basically from Instagram, actually, and started listening to the podcasts, and I'm just super excited and learning more for myself, but also would love to find, like a career in helping people, because I've been in like social service type work, but the fitness and health aspect gets me really excited. Because I think in one of your webinars you mentioned something about not webinars, but one of your podcasts that you got angry, you want to do something about it. And that's how I feel. And I feel like that kind of keeps me interested. So sorry. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, you sound great. You sound great. No, be safe on the road. Focus on the road.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I was just thinking I was gonna be, like listening and stuff. So.
No doubt. Thank you. All right, cool. And then we have one other person calling in from an iPhone.
That's you.
That's you. Yep.
Hey, what's up, Sean? This is Livio calling from Manhattan, New York City. How's everyone doing?
Doing good, Livio.
All right. Just showing my support for you. If you need my help, I'll be here on the other end.
Awesome, Livio. Thanks so much for coming on. Livio is one of our trainers here in New York City and also one of the members of our cooperative in Harlem. And we'll talk a little bit about the worker cooperatives towards the end of the call so people can know how those function. But thanks again for everyone who joined. If you're watching this on Facebook and you want to join in on the call, you can just follow the link in our event page and it'll bring you into the call, and that way you can interact and engage, or you can just continue to watch via Facebook if that's easier for you to absorb at the moment. For those who don't know, my name is Sean Garcia. I am the executive director of Revolutionary Fitness. I'm also one of the worker owners of the Harlem Cooperative, RevFit Harlem. And we have our studio on 116th in Park Avenue in New York City. And for those who follow us on Instagram, that's RevFit NYC. That's the Harlem Co-op. So I'm one of the worker owners there. I'm a founder, one of the creators of Revolutionary Fitness. And it's really exciting to have so many folks calling in from different parts of the country. We started this work, it's going on 8 years now. And there's no way that we ever thought that we would expand out of Harlem, let alone be in, other parts of the United States. And also now we're in 3 other countries throughout the world. So that's really exciting for us. I want to talk a little bit about, who Revolutionary Fitness is. Some of y'all may have heard this before, but want to give a little bit of background on who Revolutionary Fitness is, because that puts into context who our people's trainers are and why we created our certification program. And then going into kind of the history on why we created our certification program and how it differs from other certifications or other courses and programs in this industry. And then we're going to go and discuss kind of how logistically the certification program works. That's a big one for a lot of folks, trying to figure out how you can fit it into your life if it's something that's manageable for you. And then we'll close out talking about, the development of our worker co-ops and how to bring Revolutionary Fitness to where you are, especially for those who are calling in from cities where there currently isn't any certified trainers, let alone a cooperative. So we'll close the conversation with that. We're scheduled to go for about an hour. We might stretch it to 90 minutes depending on how we get through stuff and if there's a lot of questions. At the end, hopefully we'll have some time for some general questions, but feel free to ask the questions throughout. I hate just speaking to a computer, even though I get to see everyone's cool faces. So if you can engage and you feel like you want to ask something, go ahead and do so. Or if you have some anecdotes from your experiences with Revolutionary Fitness, go ahead and do so. So again, Revolutionary Fitness, we were founded back in June of 2010. And initially when we created Revolutionary Fitness, it was just an effort between friends who also happened to be community organizers. So people who were involved in social justice work, but also who were very much, into the idea of not only speaking about politics, but also integrating that into lifestyle, into health. So my background is I was a personal trainer. I ended up becoming an education director for one of the larger corporate entity gyms out there. I won't say their name. I won't give them the props, but I did that for a long time. And I also, at the same time, I was a community organizer. And so we were, realizing that our neighborhoods obviously are going through a health crisis, but as community organizers, those who are kind of in the thick of it, who are trying to change the conditions in the neighborhoods, who are working with the community members, not only are we part of the community, or we should be part of the community, not only are we part of the community and dealing with all that, but also we're going above and beyond outside of maybe work, outside of family obligations, outside of school obligations, to then do the community work. And so what happens is that a lot of folks who are community organizers and social justice folks usually are in poor health, and don't prioritize their health because they're prioritizing all this necessary work in the current state of conditions that we live in. So we were like, all right, let's make a workout for us. So Revolutionary Fitness was actually founded by a bunch of activists who wanted to work out together. And so that's kind of our roots, and it definitely impacted our development as an organization because we have a deeply entrenched social, political perspective on the world, and also specifically on health and fitness. And what we found when we started doing our workouts in the park and in different community spaces was that a lot of folks wanted to participate. A lot of members from the community wanted to participate. They wanted to take advantage. Obviously, in the most underserved and underdeveloped communities in the U.S. and throughout the world, the health disparities are not by coincidence. It's because people can't access healthy options, or they can't access health facilities, or maybe there's not enough physical culture and nutrition education in the schooling that they're getting. All right, there's so many different things that cause these issues, but the narrative that we're told a lot of the time is that our neighborhoods aren't culturally healthy. We don't want to be healthy. We kind of, we're complicit. We're just like, okay, we're unhealthy. That's just part of who I am. That's my identity. Living in this neighborhood, being of this ethnic background, whatever it may be, the narrative that's told to us. So, and it's so embedded in us that we start to internalize that and really start believing it for truth. But what we were seeing is that when we started providing health and fitness services in our neighborhoods, is that folks were flocking to the classes, and they wanted it. They wanted to come to the workout sessions. They wanted to hear about nutrition. They wanted to have these discussions, but didn't have the luxury and the benefit to do it prior to that. So we started expanding our services and doing different classes throughout New York City. And it was all pro bono work, all free classes, donation-based stuff for a long time. And it was great, but it wasn't very sustainable, the work that we were doing, because, we weren't applying for grants and doing all that kind of stuff. We just didn't know. Well, we were just kind of figuring it out as we went along. But also we realized that we weren't having a deep enough impact. We weren't impacting the community as much as we wanted. Doing a class, where 10 people, 15 people participate is great. It's necessary. It's essential that we're doing that work. But at the same time, those 10 or 15 people that are going through the class, there's 10 or 15,000 more people who are not accessing those services. And so it became, for us, it's too much of a crisis to deal with just on a case-by-case basis. And we don't have the capacity as a community and as community organizers to meet the needs in our communities when it comes to health and fitness and wellness. These needs are things that should be met on a federal level, and there needs to be a lot of work to change that federally, why certain communities are living in health disparities, and we're part of that work as well. But we realized that we couldn't just continue to just do these classes. It wasn't going to be enough. And that's when we made the shift as an organization to becoming an education organization, where we started developing curriculum and running workshops and courses to empower members of our community into what we call fitness ambassadors, so that we could start spreading the knowledge, start disseminating it throughout our communities, and not waiting for some outside source to bring that knowledge to us, but rather to develop that leadership internally within our communities, which we thought was essential. Because there is a lot of nonprofits out there who do health or wellness-based services, a lot of great nonprofits. I want to say, I don't want people to think that I'm speaking against the nonprofits in this instance, but many of them are limited in their capacity because they're meeting the needs of their, donors and all this kind of stuff. So the nonprofit industry is a little tricky in the U.S., not so much in other countries that we're located in, but definitely in the U.S., the nonprofit industry, especially the leadership on very high levels, is co-opted in many instances. And then the federal money and the money that's being disseminated throughout the communities, it comes with a lot of limitations. So people who work in these nonprofit organizations feel very frustrated many times because they're trying to do good things and bring it to the community, and then running into a lot of limitations. So we didn't want to be that. We also didn't want to become an organization that was bringing in folks who weren't from the community and who couldn't relate and understand the struggle of the community into the community and being the facilitators. That's something, there's an organization in New York City called Shape Up NYC. Great organization. They do a lot of free fitness classes, and New York City is great. But many times the facilitators, the people teaching the classes, are not from the neighborhood. So you get someone who comes in the neighborhood and can't really connect to the members of the neighborhood, maybe culturally, maybe in language. There's language barriers, maybe just in terms of understanding, the struggles, the daily struggles that community members are going through. And there's a large disconnect. So we didn't want to go down that route. So we had a focused orientation on developing leadership within the most underserved and underdeveloped communities. So specifically here in New York City, that means a lot of the communities of color, a lot of the Black communities, a lot of the Latino communities, a lot of the Asian communities. It also became a focus for us to develop a lot of leadership within female sectors and LGBT sector, because in the health and fitness industry, women and folks who are part of the LGBT community are severely underrepresented at the top levels. You never go to a health conference and see, someone who is openly gay or gender nonconforming or anything like that as a presenter on a panel. You never see discussions on, things that are related to women's health. Those things are very limited in their capacity. And so we saw that very early on as something that we wanted to tackle as well. So when we talk about underserved communities, it's not just like the neighborhood, but also the members of those communities who might be dealing with higher levels of oppression and also having less access to health and fitness. We're talking about those folks as well. So we became an education organization, started launching a bunch of services that way, had a lot of success, but we were still, by and large, our curriculum was the curriculum of the health and fitness industry, and we were doing more kind of like preparatory courses. If someone wanted to get certified as a personal trainer, or if someone was going for their yoga 200-hour certification, we were doing more kind of preparatory courses. So basically using, others' curriculums and helping people, study and train up so that when they went for their test for those certifications, they would be more prepared. So it's great because we were developing a lot of internal leadership and giving that much needed service within the community. But still, we felt that the curriculum was limited. And the biggest deficit that we identified in much of the curriculum that exists out there, whether it be becoming a nutritionist, a yogi, acupuncturist, personal trainer, whatever it is the lack of politics and the lack of discussion of politics. And for our communities, the most underserved communities throughout the world, health, fitness, and wellness is a deeply political conversation. And when someone is trying to be healthy, or is someone trying to do better for themselves and their family, that's a deeply political expression. And the barriers that are put in front of us, the hurdles, the very real hurdles, are political hurdles. It's not, having a good mindset and meditating. It's not just that. It's not about, if I wish myself to be healthier, if I pull myself up by my bootstraps, I'll be healthier. That's not the reality in our communities. But that, again, is the narrative of the health and fitness industry. Stop being lazy, get off your butt kind of mentality. Or, stop making excuses. Everyone can work out. Everyone can be healthy. You just need to want it more. We don't believe in those narratives. We think that there's significant barriers in front of folks. And we talk about that very much so in all of our education. So we got to a point where we were like, all right, the stuff that we're prepping folks for, the material that we're studying is all great, but it's so limited in terms of its political outlook and political perspective that we're not able to service the communities at the best capacity, right? If you're a fitness trainer and you're working in an underserved community or underserved population, if you have no political understanding why that community is a food desert, or why, someone doesn't feel comfortable going into a health facility because of their gender or or how they identify, then you're not going to be able to service them as well. You're not going to be as good a coach. You have to have this perspective. So we got to the point where we were like, all right, let's start developing our own curriculum. Let's develop our own certification. And that was the birth of our People's Trainer certification. So we launched the People's Trainer certification just about 2 years ago. We fully launched the certification, its first iteration. Before that, we had been working on some stuff, but when we formally set it out and said, all right, this is our curriculum and this is what we're going to be presenting, that was 2 years ago. We've had a lot of success over the past 2 years. We've been able to certify over 70 people throughout the world, in 14 cities in the US, and then in 4 other countries throughout the world. 50% of all the people we've certified over that time have been women or, female identifying. Almost 90% of our trainers are people of color. And that's really important and vital for us as an organization, that we're representing the diversity of the communities that we're servicing. And, the certification has evolved over the past 2 years. So, every time we do it, it's getting better and better and better. And we're really excited about that. And it's our certification, even though we have a set curriculum, it is an ever evolving certification, because as more leaders come into the organization and start taking on the mantle and start helping develop more curriculum, bringing their expertise and their background into the fold, it starts making our certification that much more rich. So it's not a rigid curriculum like many of the curriculums out there. I mean, for those who have ever gone through a certified personal trainer certification, most of those CPT certifications are like stuck in 1985. Not only in terms of like their language, but also the science they're using. And then what happens is that people get their baseline certification and then have to do a truckload of continuing education work to just catch up and with modern science. So our certification is definitely not that kind of rigid, a working body, but rather something that's growing all the time. So any questions so far about our history? Anything that people want to hear more about, or any anecdotes that others may have who have been part of that process? Everyone's still with me. No one's bored yet. All right, cool. I didn't see any nods, no, so I'll assume that people are engaged to some degree. So we started developing our certification 2 years ago, and primarily we were based in New York City and doing our certification process here in New York. And then through social media and through our podcast, and I don't even know how else, people started finding out about our work. And it's not that the work that Revolutionary Fitness does is new. I mean, as long as people have been oppressed, you know, and their health has been, you know, directly impacted by that oppression, there have been folks who have dedicated themselves and dedicated their work to try to help those communities, right? Whether it be like someone doing a free donation-based yoga class in the park, or, you know, someone going to the local juvenile center and talking to kids about, you know, how to better their nutrition or how to reintegrate as returning citizens back into society. You know, all these things are expression of what we call fitness justice. So we don't proclaim that we're the founders of this work. But what we think we have done with our organization is we've basically given a bit of a manifesto to this work and a working curriculum around this work, so that there is a baseline understanding between all of those who are in this network of fitness justice around the world, for a network for them to plug into and be connected to, so that they're not just doing these kind of individual efforts, which are great efforts, but many times, you know, again, not having as deep as an impact as it could have, but rather these efforts are now united, and hopefully Revolutionary Fitness is a vehicle for that to happen. Also, many of you live in spaces where this work doesn't exist, but you see the need for this work. And you're excited about the Revolutionary Fitness model because you understand that it's something that you could potentially adopt and bring into your community or bring into the work that you already do. So Revolutionary Fitness is also a vehicle for those who are looking to bring that into their communities. I know, you know, Henry has told me a lot about the work that he's doing over in Tacoma, Washington, and how, you know, many times people in our communities feel very isolated when it comes to health and fitness, right? Because when we think of health and fitness, that's not for our neighborhoods, right? Oh, a kale smoothie, that's that, you know, rich white people stuff. Or, oh, you know, I gotta buy these $100 yoga pants to be able to, you know, go to this yoga class, right? There's so many of these barriers that are put in front of us that can make us feel very isolated, and make it feel like it's not for us. So Revolutionary Fitness hopes to be a vehicle for that as well. So, you know, with the expansion of Revolutionary Fitness, we had to think hard about how we could not only do the expansion work and you know, get into different cities, but how we could make sure that our certification and the process of certification was accessible as possible to folks from all walks of life. So I'll give everyone an example. When I got my kettlebell certification, for instance, this was the most blaring example for me, because I had been, you know, as a person of color working in the health and fitness industry, I do a lot of code switching when I go into different spaces. I'm used to that. But I remember my kettlebell certification stood out to me the most because at the time that I got my kettlebell certification, I had been out of the gym life for a while. So I kind of forgot about it and all the garbage that's in that world. So I went to the certification. I'm super excited to get certified. And I walk into the certification. First of all, it cost me nearly $3,000 after, you know, paying the registration fee, after airfare, hotel fees, all this kind of stuff. So it cost me nearly $3,000, which is a barrier that most of us can't overcome, right? So a lot of people, for social and economical reasons, can't go to these kind of events. But I get to the event and there's around 40 participants. And out of the 40 participants, there's maybe like 5 women out of the 40 participants. And then out of that 40 participants is maybe like 4 people of color. And they were all with me. Like we were the people of color that rolled into that event. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, this is not by coincidence. You know, it's not that certain communities are gravitating to kettlebell training more than others. There are some restrictions. There are some hurdles. There are some access issues that are happening right now that are not allowing our community to get into these spaces. And that's very much true of the whole health and fitness industry. Is very much white dominated, folks who have more disposable income, who can take a week off from work to go, you know, get their kettlebell certification, take a month off from work to do their yoga certification. I mean, these are things that for many of us is just like a joke to even think about. And so when we started developing our certification, we were like, all right, we can't continue to, perpetuate this. We have to make our certification such that, the 19-year-old college kid could go through our certification, even though they're on a fixed income and they're broke and they don't know what they're doing with their lives. They could go through the certification. Also, the single mother of three who's, working, full time, taking care of their kids full time, doing all this stuff, they can also go through our certification. How can we make it so folks from all walks of life could access our certification and become trainers, facilitators, educators within the revolutionary fitness community? So we made a lot of adjustments to our certification with all that in mind. So when I go into the breakdown of how our certification works, that's the context that I want folks to understand why we designed it the way we did design it. But by no means is it perfect, and it's still going under a lot of development in terms of making it more accessible and available to different communities. For instance, we're going to have our first wheelchair-bound candidate going through our certification this go around. And for me as a facilitator, when we were developing our curriculum, I mean, I didn't even think about, that if someone doesn't have the use of their legs, how are they going to go through our certification program? How are they going to do the physical testing of our certification? And so even though someone who I feel like I'm more sensitive to those things, I just didn't think about it, right? Because it wasn't something I had to deal with at the time. And so we had to evolve. We had to evolve the way that we're delivering our physical test out. We also had to take note of, all right, the spaces, the venues where we're having our, certification. Are all those venues and spaces accessible to everybody, regardless of, their mixed capabilities? So all these things are still evolving. And I think it's important for our organization to know that we're not perfect and that we want to continue to grow and be challenged. Maybe there's some language that we use in our certification or in our presentations that is just not jiving well with a certain population. We want to make sure that folks are speaking up, and that, it's hard to speak up. People shouldn't be forced to speak up, but hopefully people understand that our interaction as facilitators and students is very camaraderie, and we want to build with one another. So we're still evolving that stuff too. But just to go into logistics now, any questions on the background of our certification before I go into logistics, or any thoughts? Ernie, you saw a very early iterations of our certification. How do you think it's developed over the years?
I really think it's become better and better, more expansive, giving you more tools, more knowledge, more preparation, and at the same time delivered in a way that's more pragmatic as well. I think for trainers, there's often you go for a certification because you have to. It becomes sort of a business requirement, but you really want to go to certification and be able to take all that knowledge and experience and apply it in your work. And I think that's really where RefFit is shining right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Ernie. And that actually brings up another point I forgot to mention, was that, you might be listening to this and you might not even be interested in becoming a trainer. So who is our certification for? I think is an important question. And I hate to say the generic kind of, oh, it's for everyone, blah, blah, blah. But we truly think that people can gain a lot from the certification regardless of the work that they do. So maybe you do have the intentions of developing a RefFit entity where you are, you want to be a trainer. You might even want to make it your full-time thing. A couple of us are full-time, a couple of us aren't full-time. And, it's just where it fits into your life kind of thing. But it can be, of course, you go through our certification process. We give you all that entry-level understanding that you need in order to be a very proficient coach and trainer and work with varying, mixed ability population. And at the same time, we also give you a lot of organizational support when it comes to business development and developing your business practice, which is something that other certifications don't do. Other certifications is like, pay me $2,000, go through this weekend course. All right, see you when you get your next $2,000 for the next course. And that's like the nature of our industry, is just like pimping people. Where for us, you know, we're a service-based organization. We have a larger mission. We're really trying to impact our communities, change the world on a very deep level. So our people's trainers are like our most essential, you know, folks, the folks that we want to take care of, the folks that we want to develop and hone. So we have a very different orientation in that sense. But, you know, maybe you just want to bring this kind of work into the work that you already do. Maybe you're a political organizer. Maybe you work for a nonprofit. You know, maybe you're just a mom or a dad and you're trying to bring healthier habits into your home. Whatever it is, you're going to get a lot from the certification process. And our certification process is very much more financially accessible, which we'll talk about in a bit, the pricing of our certification. So it's something that, you know, if you do want to get that enrichment of knowledge on health, fitness, and wellness, and having a holistic kind of approach to it, you know, going through our certification process will be fruitful for you. So definitely for everyone in that sense. But I think more importantly, the certification is for folks who want to make change in their communities. If you're just someone who just wants to charge $300 an hour for your personal training sessions and work with affluent folks, that's all good. I'm not knocking that hustle, because I did that for a long time as well. That's all good, but there's other certifications for that. That, you know, you can get some baseline garbage, pay a couple $100 for it, and you're good to go, do your thing. But if you really want to have some deep impact on the communities, that's who we primarily have constructed our certification for. So the process for certification is something that we think is thorough enough, but also accessible enough. So the way it works is that we have a 4-month long course that's primarily web-based, especially for those who are not in a city where Revolutionary Fitness is yet and where there's no Revolutionary Fitness trainers. You know, that's great, because now you can still get access to this semester, this course, and not feel like you're missing out because you're not around other trainers. But for those who are around other trainers, there's obviously a lot of opportunity to meet up and work out together and hang out and all that kind of stuff. There's other events that happen in the cities that Revolutionary Fitness is based in, you know, smaller workshops, smaller educational opportunities that you can take advantage of. Some of you too regionally are near one another. So like, for instance, we'll probably in a couple months get a lot of work happening in Tacoma or in Seattle, Washington. And then we have, you know, Natalia, who's in Portland, Oregon, who's not too far off, you know. And then we're going to be doing work down south in Atlanta. And I know, Manuel, you're trying to make it up to the kettlebell workshop that we're having in February in Atlanta. So there's some regional stuff that you can get as well. And we support you in those efforts as well. So, you know, like, for instance, Manuel, who's one of our candidates in Florida, we're waiving the fee for him to participate in the kettlebell certification in Atlanta, because he has to pay for his ass to get to Atlanta, right? We don't want to create more barriers for our folks by like, all right, now you got to pay us, you know, $300. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's not supporting our community. That's not what we're about. So in any case, it's a 4-month long course. It's a study at your own pace course. So we have study material that we send out each week. We have different modules that we go over each week. So in the 4-month period, there's 15 modules that are broken up into 5 different units. So each module is on a specific theme. So for example, we have a module on fitness justice. We have a module on plant-strong nutrition. We have a module on natural movement training. We have a module on program design. We have a module on social media and marketing, right? So we have all these different modules. So each week we're going through one of the modules. So you're sent the study material for that module. You study at your own pace. You know, we're very intentional about making sure that the resources that we're sending out for study are different types of media. So it could be an article, or it could be a video on YouTube, or it could be a podcast, different ways for different types of learners to absorb the information. So you study what you can at your own pace. And then we have 3 to 4 live video calls, 30-minute video calls every week. Every single week, there's 3 to 4 calls that you get access to, repeating the content of that given week. So say, for instance, that week we're talking about plant strong nutrition. The week prior, you got all the study materials. And then that week, there's 4 different options, 2 of which are in English, 1 of which is in Spanish, and then another which is in Swedish, because we have such a big Swedish community. It's mad random that we're in Sweden, by the way. It was like the one Latino dude in Sweden found us. It was like, I want to build RevFit out here. And now it's like our second biggest entity is Sweden. Big up to the Sweden team. So in any case, there's the language is something that is a big barrier for a lot of folks, especially, like the Spanish speaking community is like dominating the US. Like, how can you have a certification and it not be in Spanish? It's ridiculous. So in any case, so you have 4 opportunities to access the knowledge. It's also, all those calls are recorded. So if you can't get on live, you can always watch them later on. If you jump in on week, maybe you start your certification process and we're like on week 8, that's still okay. It's a drop in by nature kind of course. So you jump in on week 8, you can study, the videos from weeks prior, or you could just wait to the next roundabout when we get back to, weeks 1 through 7, because the semester basically is always on a rotation. So we'll do the 4-month course, take 1 or 2 weeks of break, and then start the 4-month course over again. So really, we're very intentional about trying to make that as stress-free as possible, because the worst thing is you have a full-time gig, you have kids, you have whatever responsibilities you got going on in your life, and you're like, I really want to do this, but I don't have the time, and I don't have the money. All these barriers that we have, we try to eliminate them as best we can. Of course, you still have to dedicate some time, or you're not going to learn anything. You still have to, donate some money, or we're not going to be able to sustain the work. You know what I mean? All that stuff is part of it, but we're trying to make it as accessible as possible. And then at the end of the 4 months, one participates in one of our 4-day intensive courses. So we do these in different cities. So like, for instance, those, again, who I was mentioning before, who there's not a RevFit where you are, and maybe you're the only person in your community going through the certification process, there's more than likely going to be a regional effort nearby you that you'll be invited to, that will try to, accommodate, so that you financially can make it out and make it happen and all that kind of stuff. So for instance, if we have something in Tacoma, Washington, later on this spring, hopefully all the folks from Seattle and all the folks from Portland can be at that Tacoma certification, right? So that we can try to, get as many places as we possibly can. The 4-day course is 50% physical and then 50% review of the content from the semester. So it's an opportunity for us to have more lively discussions in person, face-to-face time, hash out the information. But more importantly, is an opportunity for us to move together. And the physical, a lot of people get scared about the physical component, because when we think of health and fitness and certifications, it's very like military, machismo oriented, I'm stronger than you kind of thing. Like the certifications become like a pissing contest where people are trying to show how strong they are compared to others, or some ridiculousness like that. That's not what we're talking about here. Everyone's moving at their own capacity, at their own level. All of us are dealing with different things. We have different, capabilities, different limitations. So it's not a ego thing. It's not like, how strong are you? That's always the biggest fear. For those who are listening, everyone's always like, oh my God, am I physically going to be able to do this? Yes, you physically are going to be able to do it. Is it going to be challenging physically? Yes, it'll be challenging physically, but it will be something that is accessible and rewarding to you, and shouldn't be a point of stress, but rather a point of support. Then at the end of the 4-day intensive, we have testing. We have physical testing, which again is not a strength-based test, but it's more a capacity understanding of movements, quality movements, being able to move naturally as a human, being able to understand where to create stability, how to achieve flexibility, where to be strong, where to be soft. That's more what the test is. It's not, oh, let me see you do 20 muscle ups and lift 300 pounds off the floor. That's not what our test is about. But we have a physical test to make sure that people have a good understanding of the training systems that we use within the organization. Then we have a theoretical test, a multiple choice question test. That's a 30-question test for level 1 trainers. For those who are going through our level 2 certification who are listening on this call, that's 100 questions for y'all. So a little bit more intense. And then we have a coaching test. So we want to be able to see that everyone has the capacity to be a teacher and coach others to move well and all these kind of things. The coaching is really essential for us because we want to make sure that people who are going through our certification program are able to pass off that information. That's very much part of our motto. If we're not passing on the information and is getting stuck with that individual, then we as an organization feel like we've done a disservice to that individual and the community that they can be servicing. So we're very intentional about trying to, really develop folks into coaches. After the testing, if one passes all the components, they enter into what we call a level one people's trainer. And level 1 people's trainer, you can teach classes, you can run small workshops, you can, contribute to our website, you can, develop services within your community. You get all the benefits at a level 1 instructor, as a level 1 instructor. There's also a level 2 instructor, which is someone who's moving more into a leadership capacity within a revolutionary fitness grouping, doing more education, providing more workshops, assisting on certifications. There's also, if people are creating the co-op entities, which we'll talk about in a moment, in their community, they have to have at least one level 2 as a stipulation of developing their cooperative to ensure that as we're developing revolutionary fitness entities, we're having that leadership, people who have a deeper understanding of our mission and our training systems and all that kind of stuff. We don't want to fall into the CrossFit debacle that happened a decade ago where, basically for those who don't know about CrossFit as an exercise community has become pretty popular in the past decade or so. CrossFit, I had mixed feelings about, we won't talk about on this call, but what CrossFit did is basically you could go through one of their weekend certifications, become a CrossFit instructor, and then open up an affiliate, what they call box, which is like a small workout community, maybe in a gym, maybe in a garage, something like that. But you could, after just going through one weekend, develop a CrossFit and start training, dozens of people. And now people are entrusting their health and wellness to you because you have this brand CrossFit behind you. And we saw, tons of injuries. We saw, them losing control of their organization. They've since tightened it up. And I think you have to have like a level 2 or 3 and other things to be a CrossFit affiliate. But we don't want to fall into that. So that's why we have our level 2 status. And then we also have our master trainers. Now, our master trainers are not, the term master has some bad connotations within our communities. But it's something that is pretty standard within the health and fitness industry. And so master trainers for us, though, are not people who are like the best trainer kind of thing, but rather folks who are stepping into an education capacity within the organization. They're either going to help lead some of our certifications, develop some curriculum for workshops, or develop programming for a cooperative or something like that. So this is really like our educational leaders, our master trainers. And so we want to develop more and more master trainers, because the more master trainers that we have, the more we can spread our message, get into more communities. We also very much so want to be very intentional about who we are developing into master trainers. We want to make sure that, we have good representation of, male, female, gender non-conforming. We have good representation of people of color. We have good representation of people of all ages. That's very important for us as an organization, that the folks at the highest level of leadership within our education organization is a diverse group, and we have diverse leadership versus, many other organizations that the rank and file might be super diverse, but then all the teachers and facilitators and bosses are like these white guys. That's not what we're trying to do either. So if you have any aspirations to potentially be a master trainer one day, we have all that information on our website as well. So if you don't pass, if there's a component that you just don't complete that weekend, there's always a grace period, a 90-day window where you can complete whatever components you have to complete, submit it by video or do it in person if you're near a trainer. The idea is that we do have standards so that we're ensuring that our trainers are high quality trainers and have a deep understanding of our organization. But we also, it's not a cool kid kind of thing. Only the cool kids can become trainers for our organization. Only the toughest can become trainers for our organization. I guess that's ridiculous, but that is what's prevalent in the health and fitness industry, but it's not what we're about. So in any case, that's how the 4 months run, and then how the intensive runs. What we did in 2017 is that for those who weren't in New York City or in Sweden, our two main bases right now, we opened up access to our certification absolutely for free. And people are like, what are you doing? Like, how are you going to be able to sustain the work? And the reason that we did that is because we wanted to ensure that we were supporting the expansion as much as we could. And for individuals who were on their own trying to make this happen, that we weren't creating extra burdens for them, financial burdens being a big one in these early stages of development. So we are extending that to enrollment till the end of this month. So if someone enrolls in the current semester, which begins this Sunday, January 14th, if someone enrolls and they're not based in New York City or in Sweden before the end of this month, it's still free for you to enter. In terms of the intensive, if we're hosting an intensive in your area, there will be a small cost attached to your intensive based on rental fees and travel fees to get a facilitator out there, but still super affordable. And in many places, we're looking to see if we can even have that subsidized, if there's some grant money, if there's some nonprofits that will subcontract us to go out to those areas, and even further subsidize those intensives over the next couple of months. But for those who are based in a place where there's a Revolutionary Fitness affiliate, the certification, the starting point is $600, but then we have early bird registration, and we also have opportunities for folks to intern and do some kind of barter exchange of services. So even though we have a rate, and it's essential that we're charging for our certification, of course, because how else are we going to pay our facilitators, continue this work? Even with that in mind, though, we don't ever want finances to be a barrier for you. So if you're listening to this call, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're looking on YouTube, whatever, and you're really into what we're talking about, we don't want finances to be a hurdle for you. So always feel free to contact us directly, and we'll figure it out. We'll make it happen for you, and make sure that Revolutionary Fitness gets to where you are. And to put in perspective, for those who don't know too much about the health and fitness industry, if we took this 4-month course and the 4-day intensive and kind of the equivalent of that in the health and fitness industry, more like trade schools, that do full out semesters, we're talking that this is usually price pointed at somewhere at between $2,000 to $4,000. Ernie, am I right in that estimate? $2,000 to $4,000 for a program of this nature at this capacity. And we could be charging that, and we could be making a nice sustainable business from that. But again, that's not our orientation. Our orientation is not to make more money off of our service providers who are going to be doing this essential work in our communities. You know, that's not where we are trying to, you know, we're not trying to pinch people for every nickel and dime that they have. So we created a price structure that was as affordable as we could make it, but at the same time, sustain the work that we're doing. And we're also the Revolutionary Fitness Academy. For those who don't know, we're a nonprofit organization. So we do apply for grants, and we will be applying for more funding. If folks know about opportunities for funding in their region, please let us know, because the more funding that we can get, obviously, the more we can subsidize this work, make more, you know, opportunities for scholarships and things like that. You know, bringing it into different spaces. That's really what we're about. So that's how much the certification costs. And our other certifications are also, they follow a similar structure. So like our kettlebell certification, something that usually costs around $1,000, $1,500 to get a kettlebell certification, you can get kettlebell certified through our organization at the same high level, same quality level, for, you know, $300 to $400, which is, you know, I mean, basically, you know, a savings of like 30. I mean, you're paying 30% of whatever, you know, regular prices. So when you're part of the organization, when you're part of Revolutionary Fitness, when you're a people's trainer, you start getting all these great benefits of being part of our community, this continuing education, this network of trainers around the world now, who have like-minded orientation and want to do this important work. So this network that we can feed off of one another, learn from one another, build with one another. For instance, one of our trainers recently launched their own steel mace workshops. Rich Thurman from San Francisco recently launched his steel mace workshop, and we've been able to support him, host him in New York City. We're going to be hosting him in other cities in 2018. We're bringing him to Sweden. So we're giving him the platform that he generally, as, you know, a new business owner, as someone, you know, from you know, who's Black, who represents a community that is super underserved in San Francisco. We're, as an organization, able to give him that kind of support. And that's the kind of work that we want to do more and more of as we expand and grow. So before we get into the next conversation, any questions about how our certification works and the benefits of our certification? Diana, you look like you got a question.
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. I just want to listen more and learn more about it.
The little ones, they probably have the questions about something else.
Right? Yeah.
When are you going to be done with the call?
Yeah. Yeah, we're in.
Nice, cool. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about is, you know, so someone gets certified, someone's in our rankings. How do they start developing revolutionary fitness where they are is always the biggest question. First of all, like logistically, how do I make this happen? But also in terms of like business structure and how to plan for that. It's always big questions and important questions for us. We don't want to just develop all these fitness professionals and health practitioners around the world and not give them the supportive apparatus to be able to do the work. So what we launched, we started the discussions this past summer, and we fully have been able to launch our affiliate program, where our affiliates, people who want to have revolutionary fitnesses where they are, develop worker cooperatives, worker-owned cooperatives. And I want to say a little bit about that because some of us may know what a cooperative is. Maybe you belong to a cooperative like a credit union or a food co-op or something like that. And you have a little bit of exposure to a cooperative. But basically what a worker-owned cooperative is that all the service providers, in this instance, the people's trainers and our partners. So maybe, you know, we're partnering with a massage therapist, we're partnering with an accountant or whatever, you know, this group of folks come together and they create their business, their Revolutionary Fitness, and they're the main service providers, the main workers, the employees, and also they're all equal owners of the affiliate of that RevFit. So I'll use the example of New York City, our Harlem cooperative that we recently formed. So we have 5 people who are in our Harlem cooperative, 4 of which are people's trainers, 1 of which is just has been a member of our community for a while, and is an accountant, a bookkeeper. And so the 5 of us now work together collectively, cooperatively, to run Revolutionary Fitness Harlem. So all decisions are made collectively. All, you know, the programming we present is done collectively. All the future planning, all the budgeting, all that stuff is done collectively. And it's really, really exciting. It's a way for businesses, especially for business owners who come from the most underserved communities where it's very hard for us to be business owners. You know, most of us who are business owners under U.S. capitalism are struggling as small business owners. Most of us are, you know, running into barriers when it comes to applying for loans or getting legitimacy in certain sectors. I mean, for instance, in New York City, when me and my partner Jenny, when we were trying to sign the lease for Revolutionary Fitness Harlem, you know, we're 2 Puerto Rican kids in our early 30s from the hood, walking into, you know, speak to landlords who are like these rich guys, these white rich guys who are just looking at us like, what? You're trying to open up a community fitness space? What? Like, no. So it took us 3 years to finally find a space, even though I was the education director for one of the leading health and fitness companies in the country. Even though, you know, my partner Jenny was the top sales person for that company for nearly a decade. We had all the experience of the world, probably overqualified, definitely more experience than all these jokers opening up CrossFits and stuff like that. And we were just getting turned down left and right. And we even had the startup capital. It was crazy. But in any case, there's so many barriers for us. And so the cooperatives help eliminate those barriers where we can come together collectively and do it together. So our successes are shared and also our struggles are shared. And that's really essential. Many times in our community, struggle, oppression is an individual thing and it's dealt with internally. And there's a lot of damage that happens to ourselves, our spirits, our health because of that. And so you see a lot of folks who are business owners, for this example, small business owners, and maybe they're running into a lot of racism or sexism or xenophobia, and they're dealing with all these constant hurdles, and they're just internally dealing with it and presenting to the world that they're good, because you don't want, you know, your Latino parents to know that you're struggling. You don't want the community that has been applauding your success to know that you're not that successful and that things aren't really working out that well. So we internalize these things. It's understandable, but it shouldn't be that way, because when we're dealing with struggle alone as an individual, we're more susceptible to, you know, that burden overcoming us and leading us into states of depression, substance abuse, you know, all this kind of stuff that, you know, our community deals with. Most businesses that I've seen in Harlem that have gone under is not because they weren't good businesses, and it wasn't because the owners weren't good. It's because a lot of their struggles and hustles were dealt with internally, and you thought they were good. You would go in every day, you buy coffee from your local coffee shop, and you say hi to the family owners. Like, there's this coffee shop that was like half a mile away from us. We thought they were good. I mean, we went in there all the time buying coffee, loved the family. They were having a new baby on the way, and then they just closed out of nowhere. But it wasn't out of nowhere. They were dealing with a struggle internally for a long time, and they didn't tap into their community and those resources, And so the worker co-ops are to be able to have access to those resources. Another thing is that many of us who want to do this revolutionary fitness work have a lot of other things going on. And so it's very hard to think about launching these services on your own in your community on top of all your other responsibilities. But if you do it collectively with others who have a shared mission, we can pick up the slack for one another. So if I have to take, a week off because I'm sick, my business won't go to hell because I know I have 4 other business owners who can pick up the slack. If, I have to go on maternity leave, which is not supported in the US, right? If I got to go on maternity leave or parental leave or whatever, most jobs are like, all right, see you later. Here's maybe 2 weeks of pay or something like that. But with a cooperative, you get supported. All right, you need to take 6 months. Let's figure out how to make that happen so that you can be, with your child in these early stages. Oh, you just had a death in your family and you need to take 2 weeks off to go handle business, travel back to Dominican Republic to go to a funeral. I'm just using all these hypotheticals, but whatever you got to do, the cooperative can support you. So it's a really, really cool business model that we've decided to launch. And for us, it's not only practical to launch the cooperatives, but it also is very political, because the cooperative model, the worker owner model, where there's not employees working for a boss, there's not people being oppressed and someone doing the oppression, is very anti-Wall Street. The cooperative model is the anti-Wall Street business model. For those who don't live in New York City, Wall Street's a big deal, but it's the anti-oligarchy, is the anti, rich man kind of world business model. And so we're excited to launch our cooperative model in different cities and see how it manifests and see what people do with the cooperatives. There's agreements. There's a contractual agreement just to keep brand integrity. Of course, if you're developing a revolutionary fitness, there's some brand integrity things that are in agreement. But really, the idea is that if there's a group in Tacoma, Washington, for instance, if Henry and his crew start Revolutionary Fitness Tacoma and they get things going, they should be able to dictate what that looks like, what their efforts look like, what communities they want to focus in, who their target audience is, what kind of services they're providing. They should be able to do that, and there shouldn't be like the Revolutionary Fitness, leadership being like, oh no, you should do it this way and do it that way, even though we have no understanding of Tacoma, Washington. That wouldn't make any sense, but that's how businesses are ran in this country. It's crazy. So in any case, so our worker cooperatives are these groupings of people trainers and other folks who are part of our community coming together to start the revolutionary fitnesses where they are. So you could do an affiliate, but develop a cooperative. You need 2 or more folks in your community to do so, and you need a level 2 instructor to be developed in your community to do so. But maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe your contribution to revolutionary fitness is you just want to teach a free class at the local, your local park, or maybe you're already a community organizer and you already work with a community that's underserved, and you want to provide a once a month nutrition workshop and weekly classes that are donation based, or whatever it is. That is within your means to do as well, and we support you in those efforts to get that going. Maybe you do want to just be a full-time personal trainer. We have suggestions on business models to be a full-time personal trainer. How can you make a good sustainable income and still do revolutionary fitness service-based work? So we have like a recommendation of like 10 to 15% of your business being accessible and low cost. And then, if you go to a neighborhood where people can afford $300 a session for personal training and it's nothing to them, charge them $300. Like, that's not anti-Rev Fit. That's, being Robin Hood and making things happen so that you can sustain the work that you're doing within the communities that need it the most. So all that stuff is part of the revolutionary fitness model. Or maybe you go through our certification and you just don't have the capacity in your life right now to continue working with revolutionary fitness. We want to make sure that you're still, you still belong and you still feel like you can gain access when you feel ready or when you want to. So it's not like, oh, you don't want to be down with RevFit post, certification, peace out, see you later. That's not what we're about. People who have gone through our certification, maybe they're active around today, maybe they're not that active, but if they want to reactivate, if they want to reintegrate, we want to be able to support them in doing that and, helping them with their own personal ventures. So any questions about that stuff, business related stuff, starting RevFit where you are? Nice, cool. I'm hoping from the silence that everyone understands what I'm saying. So how do you get started at this point? If you're hearing this orientation, you're really digging what we're talking about. Obviously, if you're in a city where Revolutionary Fitness is already set up shop, and there's an affiliate, you can reach out directly to those folks. Those are probably your main sources of contact. If you want to reach out directly to me, you can do so as well. I'm going to put my email in the group chat. It's Shawn@revolutionaryfitness.org. Shawn is SHAWN. So you can email me directly with any questions, maybe something that you didn't want to publicly state on the call, but you want to follow up with me maybe after you absorb all the information, because there was a lot. Maybe there's some questions that are generated. Feel free to hit me up. And if you want to register, again, for those who are not based in New York City and Sweden, registration is still open, free of charge until the end of the month. After the end of the month, we're still going to have a discounted rate for registration. So if you don't make a decision by the end of January, but you still want to go through it, there will still be a discounted rate for the following quarter. And then as our affiliate locations in different cities start maturing and developing, then of course there'll be more standard pricing and the sliding scale structure that I was discussing earlier. So that's how you can continue to get involved. Also too, if you don't already, make sure that you follow us online. So if you don't know our website, it's revolutionaryfitness.org. And then on social media, you can find us at RevFit NYC is the primary page on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff. But within the next couple of weeks, that's going to be changing because RevFit NYC is fully now the Harlem Cooperative. And so we'll be launching the Revolutionary Fitness Academy Facebook page, Instagram pages, all that kind of stuff. So just look out for that. But for now, RevFit NYC, and then you can connect to other affiliates through that. And then also we have a podcast. Many of you from your introductions actually found out about us through the podcast, which is great. We've been producing that podcast for about 4 years now. And sometimes when I'm recording that podcast and we have interviews, I'm like, is anyone listening to this thing? And then I get a call for some random dude in Tacoma, Washington, talking about he's listening to it. So big up Henry. And a random Latino dude in Malmö, Sweden. So in any case, it's always great to hear that. But the podcast actually, we get around 2,000 downloads per episode right now, and is listened to in over 24 countries. So it's pretty cool. So check it out if you don't have it already. It's RevFit Radio, so REVFIT Radio, and you can find that on our website, but also on Instagram and on Facebook at RevFit Radio is the handle. Any other questions? We got another 9 minutes. So if you have any questions or comments. Henry, you got any questions? Nope. All right, cool. Nice. And then for folks who, if you are going to go to the certification, we have once you register for the certification and make the commitment, you get then imported into, we have like a private trainer Facebook group page. Not everyone's on Facebook. So, you know, for those who are on Facebook, that's a good avenue where there's a lot of information shared. We also bring you into all our mailing lists for our trainers. So you get that information as well. And then you start receiving those weekly emails with the different content that's part of the curriculum in the course. And then if you're listening to this and you're really excited about it, hopefully you are, and you're thinking about, oh, maybe there's some of my friends or people that I work with, or there's some opportunity for other folks to join in on this revolutionary fitness movement, this is the greatest time to invite them because of that waiver of fees. So you could, I mean, we don't want to promote it, but theoretically one could, you know, register, become part of the certification, start getting exposed to the content and the resources, and just try it out. And if it feels like a good fit, stick with it. If it doesn't feel like a good fit, that's all good too. There's no hard feelings. But, you know, our retention rate is fairly high. Since we've restructured our certification to being an online-based certification, our retention rate is somewhere around 90% of all our participants stick it out and become trainers. Before, when we used to do everything in person, it was a little harder because people couldn't make the time commitments. But now, pretty high retention rate. So we invite you all to participate and you know, try it out, feel it out, see if you dig the curriculum, see if you dig the community after you start meeting other people than Sean's face, seeing if it's a good fit for you and the work that you're doing. Cool. All right. So if there's no other questions, I think we'll end for the night. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Again, my email is sean@revolutionaryfitness.org. So if anything comes to mind and you want to shoot me afterwards, go ahead and do that. Also, too, we're going to repost this on YouTube, and then, of course, share that link on our social media channels. So if you want to share the webinar with some of those friends that you think might be interested, we definitely encourage you to do that as well. And definitely, if you don't already, follow us, like us, show some love on social media, spread the word about revolutionary fitness and the work that we're doing. And hopefully I'll see all of y'all at an intensive in 2018. Cool. Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.